Steeler Nation, how we doing on this fine Saturday afternoon? Today I'm going to be breaking down the position battle between Mason Rudolph and William Howard. Keep in mind that at any moment Aaron Rodgers could sign. It could be when I'm making this video. But we're going to be assuming that Rodgers does not sign for this video and just letting you guys know he definitely will sign, or at least in my opinion I think that. But we're just going to assume that he doesn't sign, and these two are the main two quarterback options, along with Skylar Thompson, but we're not going to be talking about him in today's video. So let's get this ball rolling with some stats from the past couple seasons for the two gunslingers. All right, let's get started with Mason Rudolph here. We're going to be talking about his time in Tennessee last year, and then his 4-game stretch with Pittsburgh the year prior to that. All right, a quick rundown of Mason Rudolph's stats. He threw for 2,478 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, a 206.5 average, and 10 interceptions over the past couple of years. So, these aren't great numbers by any means necessary, but it's a solid, capable job by a veteran to maybe get his team to 9 or 10 wins, So, we could live with this. It could be a lot worse. It's quite similar to what Kenny Pickett would be doing, but Mason Rudolph is only getting paid $4 million as well. He's not he didn't get brought in here to be that starter. He's here to be a backup guy, and if Rodgers doesn't sign, he could start over Will Howard for a couple games. And then if he does great, then good, keep him in there. And if he does bad, then Will Howard can take over. And speaking of Will Howard, let's check out his stats. And these are the stats here for William Howard. 4,010 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 250 yards per game, and 10 interceptions. These are, again, very solid numbers, but, you got to remember, this is at the college level, and Will Howard has some of the best weapons in all of college football. Granted, he doesn't have DK Metcalf right now. So, DK Metcalf, Jeremiah Smith, quite similar, in terms of, actual skill. They were different players, obviously. But, 35 touchdowns, that's good stuff right there. 10 interceptions, did a good job limiting turnovers, and he threw for a lot of yards, too. And if he's going to be thrown far, and this is over a 16-game season, too. So he has one more game, he's probably at 4,300, just looking at the average. 4,260 to be specific. But, very solid season from Will Howard. And at Kansas State, he was having some good seasons, too, led him to the Big 12 championship game. But this just shows that he has the talent to be a good starting quarterback. He just has to put it all together, and then the whole NFL world can really see what he's made of. If you want to see the whole breakdown of Will Howard, I made a video on that called Why Will Howard is the Future, so check that out if you want to learn more about him. Situational football, who's going to win what? The 3 categories we're going to go over here is the scrambling aspect, and the passing intermediate/short, and then the deep passing. All right, so starting off with the running the ball, Will Howard takes that one relatively easily. He's a big guy, so is Mason Rudolph. They're both 6'5", 6'4", respectively. But Will Howard just has a little more speed to him, so I'm going to give him the win in this category. Now, in passing the ball short and intermediate, that's another one, Will Howard. I'm going to give it to him. But, Mason Rudolph is right on his toes. It's very, very similar if I'm being honest here. But I'm just barely gonna give that edge to Will Howard right there. And then deep ball, though, this is where I have Mason Rudolph finally a winning run. One, you saw him against Cincinnati in week 17, I believe, 2 years ago with George Pickens, who's no longer on the team. But his deep ball was connecting in that game, I must say. So but really, it's very similar for all 3 of these categories for the 2 of them. But just looking at what I had, I do have Will Howard ultimately being the better situational player, depending on the situation. And one final situation I wanted to hit on here is the 2-minute drill and who can do more. This kind of goes into the running category, and with their passing being so similar as well, I'm going to give Will Howard the edge in the 2-minute drill also. But in the 4-minute drill as well, where you have the ball and you're not trying to let the other team have the ball, that's one where you would really like a running quarterback to be there so he can scramble and get a first down. But again, very similar both these guys, and really either one of them could win each category. Now, moving on to who's the better leader. I think Will Howard is a slightly better leader. However, Mason Rudolph knows the locker room a little bit more, so really evens out. But once Will Howard starts to know the guys more, I think he'll be able to lead them a little more. Because, you saw him at Ohio State. He led them all the way to the national championship game. And you can say, yeah, he had great weapons. But if a guy like Justin Fields, per se, I'm not trying to slander on my guy there, But if he was he was there, he had great weapons too, and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. But he didn't win anything. But then when Will Howard did, because of his leadership and his ability to really just put his teammates on his back, Will Howard was able to lead the Buckeyes to a natty when guys like Justin Fields weren't. And going back to Mason Rudolph here, I mean, he knows the locker room like in and out, and I'm sure he's a great leader too. I just don't really know too much about him because we haven't really seen him at like the lead of anything quite yet. But maybe this year he will get his chance, assuming Aaron Rodgers is the starting quarterback here in Pittsburgh. And with all that being said, there can only be one winner. And my winner for the QB1 job, as we stand right now with no Aaron Rodgers on this current roster, the winner of the quarterback one position, in my opinion at least, is Mason Rudolph. I picked Mason Rudolph here just because, I mean, you know, he's been here before and he's done that. Will Howard did great things at the college level, but I just don't know if his game will translate fluently to the NFL after year one. He has all the talent to do it, but he just has to get some mentoring from someone because he's a little bit raw, you know? But, like, once he can get all that mental stuff down, which he's pretty solid at already, but if he can become, like, elite in that phase of the game, then I know for sure he can become a very, quite frankly, remarkable NFL quarterback that the Pittsburgh Steelers can trust to lead them to Super Bowl. But I picked Mason Rudolph because he's been here. He's shown that he can lead them to 9-10 wins a season. And, in fact, he has a winning record here in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, you got to respect that. And that's why Mason Rudolph was my winner. But if you love the Pittsburgh Steelers like myself, then like, subscribe, and comment for more Pittsburgh Steelers videos. And with that being said, folks, here we go, Steelers. Here we go.